So creepy.
So I'm ripping out the old bok choy twigs, and don't I come across this scary looking thing? Yeah, I think that's a garden spider, but the coloration is just, look at it. Not a big fan of spiders. Look how white the top is. Never seen anything quite like it. Not a spider fan. I wish I could give it some scale. Where's my finger? Okay, I don't want to touch it really too much.
No, don't touch it! Don't touch it!
There's my finger. Easy. There's the back of it. It's big. It's a lot bigger than the ones I normally see around here. Focus. Seems to like the bok choy for whatever reason. And if you know what this variety of arachnid is, let me know. Not a spider fan, but it is pretty cool. I feel like it's just gonna jump at my face right now and latch on. So yeah, interesting. What's happening, everyone?
What's happening, rerun?
What up, Rod?
We are back in the quote-unquote shop, which is just a tiny room off the back of the house. And we're going to be attempting rear shock stuff. As you can see here, we removed our subframe and all that stuff in one whack. It's pretty nice. It's just 3 bolts and a couple, clamp, and all that removes in one piece, which is great. We removed our 2 shock bolts, top and bottom. And let me get to the other side so I can show you better. We've got our homemade fancy wood clamp vise going, which actually works really well. So I watched so far 1 video how to do this, and it's quite obvious to the even most casual observer. You have to remove spring tension, which is just the lock nut and tension nut. Undo those all the way, release tension on your spring. I don't know if they make a fancy tool. Of course, I don't have it. I just used a pair of water pump pliers, and that worked a treat. No problems there. This is where it gets a little interesting. In the video I watched, this spring bucket cup, well, his version sat up there and stayed up there, and the gentleman explained that there's a circlip that hold these 2 pieces together. You have to bang down on the outer ring to expose said circlip, remove said circlip, and outer ring then comes off, which allows you to remove your spring. Well, I don't think we have the same style shock, year, make, model. I'm going to say there's no seam there. I cleaned that up very well. Not sure if you can see that on camera. I don't see a seam there. So let me know your thoughts on that. Setting on the shock, it was 10 clicks out from all the way hard. I don't know what this screw does, but I'm assuming this piece removes to remove said spring, bucket, cup, whatever you want to call it. Disappointingly, the manual just states if the shock is leaking or shock oil needs replaced, you go to a Honda dealership. There is no internal exploded diagram on the internals of our shock, so too bad, so sad. We have to refer to online videos and kind of wing it. I'll say it before. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Never done a rear shock rebuild. Like I said, watched only 1 video. Still have not found a kit. Spent an hour looking at what seems to be an infinite number of part numbers and rebuild kit, service kits. I believe I did do some research. This is a Showa. I don't know if I'm saying that right. 46 millimeter 14. And even looking that up, a service kit for this, I got close. If I still have the link or pictures, they do show different part numbers and kits. When I inquired with the company, says, oh no, we don't sell retail. That's just our parts list. It's part of our service. You mail us the shock. You know the rest of the story. $10 million in labor, parts, shipping costs. You get your shock back. Well, we don't want to go that route. So again, if you know another year make model they ran this in, and I believe it's a 4614 Showa. If you know a rebuild kit for this, please let me know. I will continue to do my research. Hopefully I can come up with one. I haven't called any dealerships or, motorcycle shops. That's my next venture. That said, let me see if this would be bottom of the shock. This is the bracket. Let me see if this piece is removable, and then I'll bring it back in when I figure out how I got it off. Wish me luck. My next move is let me just sneak by over here. I'm going to come to this side of it. I'm going to remove that cap that should drain the oil, and then I'll remove the Schrader valve, and then you press this down. There's a circlip that comes out and then gives you that cover, this cover will come off, and then access to bladder. Progress report. So in true Mike fashion, I was wrong.
Disappointed, Pete. We were bitterly disappointed.
I had to take this across the street and put it into a real vise because I'm assuming this is like the front shock. One's compression, one's rebound. Let's call that, I didn't look it up yet. We're just going to call it the valve. That did not want to come out. So I had to go across the street, stick this in the real vise, and remove that. 0 oil came out of that. What you see is that is everything that was in there. So it has all leaked out. Next, what I did is removed the Schrader valve from our nitrogen container or vessel or whatever. I had this Schrader valve tool. I just took the valve out with that end, and then you push this down, and there is a clip in there. You remove said clip, not bad at all. And then this screws on to here, and you kind of just yank it up. WD-40, it gets kind of stuck because grime, grease, dirt, whatever, and it came out problem free. So when I remove this, here's the bladder. The bladder is in excellent shape. I took it off this cap. There's apparently no holes. There was no moisture on the inside, no anything. So I don't know if these are reusable, but I would say this is a great candidate for reusing it because I don't believe there is anything wrong with it. After I did that, I studied on this forever. Again, the 2 flats, you can see one of them there, threw me off, like that was threaded on. I finally had did I bring my pick set? Thought I brought the pick set, didn't bring the pick set. So I brought a transmission pick and I really started digging in there. What didn't look like was a 2-piece situation, turned out to be a 2-piece situation. So what I did is, well, we can take it apart now because we got it apart. Again, there's just a clip. You bang this down just like I previously stated, and there's a clip. Remove said clip, and now this will slide off. Now we can remove our spring. Put that to the side. Probably should paint that or do something with it. Probably won't, but now we have access to this. And whatever our next step is, which I don't know, I have to go research it. I'm that simple-minded where I watch part of the YouTube video and then go perform said part of said YouTube video because I'll just forget. So I don't watch the whole thing and go do it. Sometimes I do, but rarely do I do that because not having done this before, I really don't know what I'm up against. So yeah, might as well show you this. There's just no action left. Obviously this was, even with this all sealed, it just dropped. There was no nothing. Everything, no oil. So you see it going now. All the oil leaked out, and we obviously have bad seals in there which need to be replaced. So now that we got to this point, I'm gonna go look what next step is and attempt to perform next step. And when I get something done, I'll bring you back in. Okay, so for the most part, I was able to get the rest of our shock disassembled. And the way I did that, I don't know what this part is called, valve body, the internals, let's just call it that. I don't know, let's see if you can see that. There's actually 2 clips on here. So there's a small one there. If I remove that, which allowed me to remove the bigger one, which allowed me to push this down, whatever it's called, inside the housing here, and you can see that groove, which exposed that snap ring in there, remove that snap ring, which allowed me to pull this all out. I finally figured it out. It was that clip, that bigger clip, wouldn't allow me to push this down to expose that clip. It's just, you know, trial and error and trying to figure it out. Now, I didn't remove that yet because I don't need to. I still don't have parts, but now, you know, you got a bushing here, O-ring here, 2 O-rings on this valve here, 2 or 3. Let me look at that quick. I think just the 2. Looks like 2 O-rings there, several snap rings, the bladder, which I honestly, my gut tells me I don't need it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that bladder, to be honest. So now when I look at parts kits, at least I know a count of what should be in there. You know, 3 O-rings, 3 circlips, but of course, you know, not every service kit comes with everything. I know you've all experienced in the past, well, why did it come with this and not this? But at least now, seeing it, you know, with my own eyes, we have an idea of what should be in the service kit. And like I stated before, I've looked at what seems to be an infinite number for every year, make, model, manufacturer. So now what I'm going to do is more research. I'm going to go back online and see if I can find a rebuild kit / service kit for this Showa 4614 rear shock. Wish me luck. Alrighty, it's been approximately 2 weeks and we finally have some rear shock parts. This was a hard fought battle, mostly because I don't know what I'm doing. We got all our parts cleaned up, no problems there, taken apart, except for shock head valve. I think this is what this is called, and there's a bushing in there. There's some fancy driver that gets it out. I don't have said fancy driver, so we're gonna have to figure that one out. But parts, long story short, I don't know, I'll try and bark this out as quick as possible. There's not a ton of companies making parts for the Showa rear shock on a 92 Honda CR250. I did end up going to a local guy here in town. I think it was MHS Cycles, and took a ride over there, told him what I had, and he proceeded to tell me, I'm not a suspension guru. I'll end up spending 15 minutes looking through my books, and I have better things to do.
What a dick.
And as my jaw kind of hit the floor on that very straightforward set of comments, I said, okay, have a nice day, and I left. So there's another local motorcycle shop, KTM dealer in Norfolk, Massachusetts, a couple towns over from me. I called him, and completely different experience. Super nice guy. He said, I explained my situation. I said, he said, let me get back to you and see what I can do. I don't know, 3 or 4 hours later, he calls me back, left a message, said, sorry, none of my suppliers have the parts for that specific shock, but if you go to racetech.com online, they should have what you need. Well, in the 3 to 4 hours it took him to call me back, I did some research online, lots of research, and the big problem is I couldn't figure out exactly what shock this was. Online was saying, and when I say online, I mean internet, which is not always correct. there was two different sizes. Either this was a Showa 4614 or a Showa 4616. Well, me being not that smart,
I am too smart. I am too smart.
I didn't research what those numbers meant. I just took that as, okay, we need one or the other, and that's what I went off of. I wish, in hindsight, I wish I researched what 4614 meant, because then I would have saved myself some much not needed aggravation. So I found a company online before, the gentleman had called me back. I found this company called K-Tech out of England, and you could go on their website and search year, make, model, and when I did that, it came up as a Showa 4616. I said, okay, I mean, they're in the suspension business, it's got to be right? Wrong. So I looked at that, and I tried to find some other companies, and there were some more UK companies, but the prices were more money. As soon as I heard from the gentleman from the motorcycle shop, I then went to racetech.com and looked on their website, and my jaw kind of hit the floor, and we'll just go over a few things. So for the K-Tech, it was $21.95 for the kit in pounds. That translates to $26.69. The shipping, however, ready for this? Shipping was 109 pounds, which translates to roughly $134. So it was approximately $167 for the kit delivered to my house. And I thought that, oh my God, that's a ton of money. But when I went to Racetech, for my particular year, make, model, you can buy, their options for a kit is called a gold kit, and that's the only option I could find, or a lowering kit or a flat track kit for $200. If you want them to install it, it's an additional $250 labor. Racetech does not sell a specific kit like K-Tech. You can buy a quart of oil for $30. I think I paid $14 for mine. You can buy the head assembly, which is this part, for $70, which we didn't need. But the oil seal, dust seal, bushing, and I don't know about O-rings. It didn't say anything about O-rings. For just those seals, it was $85 just in parts. With the head assembly, which I'm assuming came with the O-rings and seal, $155 total. So massive price difference, and this is before shipping. There was another UK one, Officine 08. The kit alone was $45. So I'll stop rambling. Long story short, I went with the K-Tech. It took about a week to get here from the UK, and again, I went with the 4616 because that's what it came up per their search online off their website. Well, unfortunately, the 4616 was incorrect. I still don't know what the first number is. I haven't researched it, to be honest with you. The second number is the diameter of this shaft. This is not a 16 millimeter shaft. This is a 14. So I contacted K-Tech via email, and I just want to give a shout out. They were a incredibly stand-up company. They apologized several times. Long story short, they expressed the correct part. It got here within 4 to 5 days. And now we have the correct 4614 Showa service kit. That said, let's get situated and see if we can get this shock back together. Alrighty, Meow. I had to come across the street. Let's talk about this. Is this the piston? No, this is valve. I'm so bad at this. My apologies. Anyways, God, I can't remember the name of this. You know what it is. You're much smarter than me. Anyway, let's talk about the bushing that goes inside of there. I don't have the fancy seal bushing, not seal, driver, bushing driver specialty tool is what I'm trying to say. My apologies. So if you don't have said tool, a 3/8 drive, 10 millimeter fits on top of this bushing perfectly. And I thought I was just going to take a rubber mallet and just tap, tap, tap.
Tappa, 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 tappa.
Tap-a-roo right out of there, no problem. Wrong. It's not like that at all. It's a press job all day long. So what I did, I came across the street, took that setup to my little Toys R Us vise here. I don't have soft jaws, so I just put that there and put that in here with it and was able to press it out that way. It does get to a point where, you know, it hits the shoulder on the socket. You just switch to the deep version. That'll drive it out the rest of the way. And to press the new bushing in, which I already did. My apologies, I would show this on camera, but I've never done this before. I quite literally don't know what I'm doing. I'm not smart. I'm just watching videos online and trying to get the most out of that, and then trying to get, you know, in true, you know, fashion of the channel, we're just using what we have in stock. We're not spending umpteen $1 million on fancy tools to change a bushing out. So press out, no problem with the sockets and the vise. Press in, I went into my little catch-all of parts and found a plastic, this is a spacer for a wall mount flat screen TV holder. And it comes, if you've done it before, you know it comes in a kit with all different sizes. So I put that against there, in there, reverse the process into the press, and pressed it back in with said plastic spacer, and it worked out really well. But yeah, I was a little surprised by that. I thought that would just come out of there a lot easier than it did. So okay, onwards and upwards. Okay, so we're back inside, and apparently this is called the seal head. So I was able to put the dust seal on with a socket, no problem at all. Just fit that over there, tap it on. I did install our new O-ring. And then my biggest problem is I didn't know, one, the direction of the oil seal that sits in there and these washers. I know this went on last. Took me a while to go get some pictures. For whatever reason, I didn't video myself taking this apart, so in true Mike fashion, it was an idiot move, but I'm pretty sure this is the order. It goes this shim and or washer, oil seal with sealing edge going in. So you can see how it's tapered out, and then there's that edge there. So on this one, it's going to be numbers down. Then this big thick washer, and then this, everyone calls it a bumper. So yeah, let me get that installed. I think these all just press in fairly easily. I am going to grease this up. I am going to use, I didn't look up grease. I'm going to do our, you know, trial by error. I don't know, I'm going to use the plumber's grease because I know it's not going to affect the rubber negatively. I guess one would imagine that it doesn't matter because we're putting oil into everything, but I don't know. What do you think about that? I think this is a silicone-based plumber's grease specifically for rubber O-rings, so I'm going to use it here. As far as oil goes, I'm just using what I put in the front shocks. Some of you might scream at this because according to some videos, that's kind of, the number 10 is a little bit too heavy. I guess you're supposed to run like a number 3, the super lightweight, because I guess from what I understand, there's a lot of heat generated in the shock, and using a heavier weight, it gets hotter, it changes viscosity. There's things happening that are beyond me, but I'm not spending any more money on this thing as far as oil. We're just going to run the 10, and I think personally that's going to be fine. We don't have a shock bumper, and I'm not going to order one. A few of you might say, well, idiot. You should do it right. Yeah, I'm not worried about a bumper for one, and two, I can't put any more money into this thing. This is the last piece of the puzzle. I hate to do it. We've got to move this on and sell it. I wish I could do every single nut and bolt brand new spring, all that stuff, but it's just not in the budget. To give you an idea, I paid $1,200 for this. I mentioned in a previous video. So just in parts alone, just parts, we're just shy of 2,000 bucks. I added it up and my jaw, hit the floor. So yeah, that's it. We're done. Be lucky to make my money back on this one. So that said, if you don't see a shock bumper, it's because we're not buying it. And unless you're going, off massive jumps on this thing, I don't think it's going to be that necessary. I'm starting to ramble as usual. Let me get this ceiling head back together, and then I'll bring it back in when we can, do more steps. Okay, so we got our seal head assembly back together. We have our shock shaft in the vise. We put our half-hour spring seat on here, followed by our shock body cap. Next, you would put on a fancy tool called, focus, a bullet. I don't have said bullet. I scoured the house for something to work. I pulled apart a Sharpie. That almost worked. That would have been a great find. But I found a chapstick tube. That almost worked. One part of it did. Hacksawed it off. Got it on here, lubed it up, and I think that's going to work. Let's just see. We're going to just... Okay. Maybe it isn't going to work. Oh, there she goes. So yeah, you want something to protect that metal lip. So hopefully that wasn't too, abrasive on our new seal, that piece of plastic. I think it will be just fine. All right. Next, I think, is going to be our piston. That's your piston, and that's one side is your compression pack shim assembly, and one's your rebound. Not sure which is which, but I'm going to need two hands for that. Like I said, as we took it off in the video, you just want to keep it all together. The kit did not come with the piston bushing, and I guess there's two O-rings underneath. It didn't come with those, so we're just going to oil that up and reuse it. I didn't see anything obvious. So let me get that installed and we'll go from there. Okay, we have our piston and shim stack assembly in place. Nut tightened to 27 foot-pounds. Found that in the video. Don't know if it applies to this shock, but that's what I'm going with because I'm lazy and I didn't look anything else up. You're supposed to use a bunch of Loctite in there. I didn't have any. Some of you are going to find this cringeworthy, but I looked up substitute, and you can use nail polish or super glue. I chose super glue because that's what I found first. So don't know if that's good enough, but it's going to have to be for this build. Again, 27 foot-pounds, and we're going to take a hammer and punch and just put a peen in that nut so it doesn't back out. Okay, we got our valve back into our shock body, torqued to 17 foot-pounds. Just what I saw in said same video. And that's what I went with. So now, this is where it gets interesting. I've seen multiple variations on adding oil and how to bleed. The majority of people, we're going to start by putting oil into here. It's going to bleed over to here, and then we're going to put our bladder back in and do it so it's overflowing. And what that's doing is kind of removing all the air. I guess the biggest thing is we don't want any air in this thing. So yeah, so we'll, like I said, oil here till it bleeds over to here. You want it to overfill it. And then we're going to add our bladder and just simply put it back in until it overflows. Push it down beyond the clip mark. Put our clip back in. and then put in a Schrader valve and add tool, pull it up. You can either add pump air into this and pump it up so it pushes up to here, or you can just pull it up with a Schrader valve tool. Okay, I got my bladder installed, and like I said, it is going to overflow, so make sure you have something to catch it in. And then I was able to use my little Schrader valve tool, screw that on there, pull that up, installed said Schrader valve in there, and used a hand pump you can see over there, and put like, I forget what they recommend. I only put like 15 pounds in there. You want to seat it, and you want the bladder to be uniform all the way around. You don't want it crooked in there, or whatever. So now what we're going to do is fill this other part of the body almost full with oil, and then we're going to take our valving and just gently work it in there. This is where it gets weird with people. Some people say you just jam the thing in there and slowly push it home, let the overflow out. This is going to get rid of all your air bubbles, and that's it. The other variation was one guy, I think it was Rocky Mountain ATV, he waited till the end and didn't add oil to the end, which I thought was, I didn't like that process, because then he had to use the valving to pump it and oil went everywhere, and I didn't like the way he bled that. And then there's this last variation that when you do put the valving in here, you want to pump it slowly. You want to put a good amount of compression, force downwards, and then come up slowly, checking for air bubbles, and bleed it that way. So that's the way I'm going to do it. That's the third way I saw. I'm not just going to jam it in there, jam it home, cap all done, and wrap it up. I'm going to, fill this almost the way up, put the valving in, push it down, and then once the valve is in there, you're going to fill it almost to the top, and then go back and forth, working out any air bubbles. And once you don't see any more, then that's when you can close up shop, set your cap. Actually, you got to push your valve head in. I don't have seal head. I'm sorry. You have to push your seal head in past the clip point there. There's a fancy tool, kind of like your front shock oil seal driver. It kind of looks like that. I don't have it. I'll have to figure something out, but yeah, that's the process. Well, as usual, it's around here it's one step forward, two steps back.
Damn it!
So things were going well until we put said valving in said shock body, and there was zero resistance. The thing just fell in there on its own weight, which it's not supposed to do. That said, there is a piston seal, which is this person here, this part, not person, sorry. And when I tried to remove it, it just literally broke. So it's super old, probably original, and completely worn out. Behind that looks like a square cut O-ring. I'm assuming that is going to be completely wore out as well. So in true fashion around here, now we have to order 2 parts before we can completely reassemble our rear shock. And even after we reassemble, we still have to get it filled with nitrogen. So yeah, that's gonna end it for a second here, or a hard minute, or a long day, or maybe week, depending on these parts. So yeah, let me go try to find a piston seal kit for a Showa 4614 rear shock. 4 or 5 days later, we have here what is new old stock. This I found on eBay. It's, like I said, new old stock. This is our piston seal, bushing, wear ring. I'm not sure what it's called. I forget. As far as the O-ring, I put the old one back on because there was literally only, I don't know why these parts are so hard to find for these shocks, for one. And number two, why can't they just make a kit that comes with all the internals, at least the seal side of it, that you need in an all-inclusive kit. It almost makes me want to go in the suspension business just to go like, listen, this is the way you should do it. If you know the reason why this is, why you can't get a complete kit to completely rebuild this shock, all-inclusive, one-stop shop, buy the kit. It has all the piston seals and O-rings. It has all the seal head seals, dust case, seal, O-ring, all that.
Lose it. I mean, I am gonna lose it, Joe.
I'm not a smart man, but logically, it would make life so much easier than to buy the parts individually. I'm sure it just comes down to money. They want you to buy 18 kits. They want you to buy one O-ring for $20, and it's, company greed, I guess. In the meantime, again, I'm rambling. Let me try and get this seal installed. I did end up watching a video how to put this on. I found one, and there is a fancy tool, but someone suggested and was using a plastic cup, like a solo cup, keg cup. Well, I didn't have that. So I measured it, and guess what? The paper towel holder roll is perfect for the ring, but you can't get it over the piston without ripping it. So then I thought, electrical tape, let's just make a protective thing for the metal, blah, blah, blah. Well, that worked, and I got it on. But as I was sliding it over the tape slid down with it, and it all went behind the piston seal, and so I had to take it back off to get said tape out. Finally, I just got frustrated and put the ring on with nothing except brute force. It didn't break, and it's on there. So I got air back into the bladder. Let's see if we can get it in and see what it feels like here. All right, well, it's not dropping in this time. So that's good. That's an improvement. We got our piston back in our cylinder, and we got our cap zip tied out of our way. Well, let me see if I can get this seal head seated without said fancy tool, and I'll bring it back in when we're making progress. Okay, so we have our seal head back in place. I just ended up using an aluminum X-Acto knife, shaft, body, and sorry about that. And yeah, before you put that in, you let the air back out of the bladder, and it goes in relatively easy. You don't really need a fancy driver, and at least not in this case. We got our clip in, which is, I don't know if you can see it there. You just really want to make sure that's seated, because you'll end up with a mess on your hands. Another variation is some people were waiting to put the spring on and doing the nitrogen first, just to make sure everything is good. But those people had nitrogen in stock. The majority of people are putting the spring back on and then going to get it filled. I put a little bit of air in. I didn't put a ton in, but I just wanted to show you that it is rebounding on its own. It's compressing and rebounding. I probably have 15 pounds in there. I just got a stupid bike pump, and it doesn't work very well. So yeah, I'm happy with that. Clips in, that's in. This cap literally just taps in place with a rubber mallet. I'm going to put the spring back on. That said, let me get this all back together, and we'll go from there. So I'm going back together with my spring, and you can see there, the spring is directional, thank God, because, me. The bottom spring fits over the mount, no problem at all. The top, however, does not want to seat inside the spring anymore. Of course, I initially questioned it. Was it like that before? Referred back to the beginning of the video, and no, that was sitting inside the spring. So in true Mike fashion, I'm an idiot. The reason the spring wouldn't fit the way it's supposed to fit is because I had it all wrong. Referring back to the beginning of the video, my eye finally caught that I had this incorrect. I had this flipped the other way to fit inside here. It is not supposed to do that. It's supposed to go on this way, and then I had the spring going in the wrong direction, flipped around. It easily fits over our mount/nut. So disaster averted. I just wanted to point out that mistake because, hey, we're human. We all make mistakes. Me more than most, but we got it right, and now we're ready for a nitrogen refill. I looked up specs according to the internet, and it was just a forum. So factory preload, meaning the length of the spring from here all the way to here, is 10.3. I have it set at 10. And then it does give specs for rebound and compression. I think one was 8 to 11 clicks and then 10 clicks. But we're going to get the nitrogen filled first and then do our settings. And that's it. Bring it back in when we have it reinstalled on the bike, and we're good to go. Bike is back together once again. Shout out to Cliff Cycles in Norfolk, Massachusetts for being gentlemen and getting this shock charged with nitrogen. The gentleman asked me if I wanted standard 1 bar or 142 pounds. I said, I don't know. I'm amateur at best. I said, according to the internet, it's 150. According to some people, it's 166 to 200. You're the expert. I'm going to leave it up to you. So that's what I did. So that said, there's nothing left to do. Oh, as far as rebound and compression settings, I didn't ask the guy, Cliff Cycles. I just went online. I think I mentioned already, it was set preload to 10 inches. I think it was like 10.34 was standard, so I just went 10. As far as settings, it was like 8 to 11 on one side and 10 clicks on the other side. As far as rebound and compression, I just went 10 clicks across the board. Let me know your thoughts on that. And there's nothing left to do except go test this thing once again. Alrighty, well, we're across the street near the field, and it's a balmy 40 degrees. It's probably like 45 in the sun. So let's see, I haven't started this since last time we ran it, so it's been a couple weeks anyways, 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know when I did the last video. So let's see how many kicks it's gonna take on a 40-degree day, cold start. Running, live. It's a bear to catch, man. My foot hurts. Now, some people say you can just start this and rev it to the moon. I'm not of that opinion. I like to let it warm up. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on that.
Alrighty, there you have it. Final thought
And now for my final thought.
on this build. Front suspension feels right. We got no leaks. You can see the dust seals are still, you know, an 1/8 inch, not seated all the way, but they have not moved, and we have no leaks. The engine, you can see it idles a little bit erratic. It wants a lot of idle on the choke. I tried adjusting the, where are we here? Air screw there. I went 1 3/4 out. It hated it. I went in a little bit. It didn't really help. Into 1.5 turns out seems to be the sweet spot. Let me know your thoughts on that. Do we need to go up on the pilot jet? You hear the throttle response is right there. It's very snappy and it flies. As far as anything else with the engine running is the clutch. It hangs up ever so slightly, does not want to run an idle in gear. Let me know your thoughts on that. It's definitely an improvement what it was when we first fired this thing up for the first time. And you know, as long as you're feathering the throttle, it'll go, but it's definitely not doing clutch things. You know, it's probably like 80% instead of 100%, so I'm no expert. Let me know your thoughts on that. As far as rear suspension, there's definitely a difference, but it's still quite bouncy. After adjusting the compression and rebound sides of the rear shock and having really no difference in the result of the way the rear shock acts, it is still very bouncy. I did some research and determined it's one of 3 things. First one, we put the shim pack piston upside down, which I'm 99.99999% sure I put it incorrect because I just pulled it off onto a screwdriver and put it back in reverse. Second, it could be the piston band. We went back with a new piston band, but an old O-ring. And while it did definitely make a difference as far as resistance going in, it wasn't a lot of resistance. So oil could be getting in between the piston band and the shock body. Third, and I hope this is not the case, is when I initially took this rear shock apart, there was no oil in it. That being said, that piston could have been wearing on the shock body itself and opening up that bore with wear. There was no visible scratches in the shock body that I saw. I don't have a dial indicator bore tool. I might have to get one, and we're going to have to measure the bore of that shock body to determine, you know, where we're at as far as bore width. So that'll really stink if that bore's worn out, but I had another kit coming. It came yesterday, but just like the last company, I don't know where quality control is in 2023. I ordered a Showa 46mm O-ring and piston band conversion. Comes with the metal band replacing the plastic one. Ordered a 46mm, they sent me a 40. I don't, and the orders clearly state it's supposed to be a 46mm. So I started the return process, and they don't have another one. That was the last one. The only other one I could find, companies only go back to like 2003. I don't consider this bike that old. I guess, yeah, it's 30 years old, but I don't know. What do you do in situations where you have a 40-year-old bike or a 50-year-old bike? I don't understand why these parts are so hard to come by. Please let me know if you have any other companies. But I did find a kit. I think it was an SDI. It was for a 2003 CR250 that had a Showa 46mm shock. So for like 26 bucks, I ordered it. It's going to be here in 4 days. Just to have it. So yeah, I'm not going to film it. We've played out the build on this bike long enough. It's time to move on.
I just wanted to give you these tips and experiences in case you run into it. And I'm not going to film it. You've seen the shock come apart. I'm merely going over tips and advice, and we're going to make this bike right. I can't sell this with a rear shock that is not correct. Also, the clutch, we are going to take the clutch cover back off and try and figure out what's going on with the clutch, why it's hanging up slightly. Probably measure the clutch plates and go from there. Not going to film it. We're just going to get this bike right so we can sell it as a complete 100% ready to go unit.
I have zero complaints, especially with the throttle response. The thing just boogies, and it'll wake you right up if you're not used to these things. But anyway, that should be about it for this series and this build. We'll wait for the car to pass. Let me know your thoughts, if any advice on any parts we just mentioned. And I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. As always, thanks to each and every one of you watching, and especially those who are commenting. I'm getting more and more comments, and I absolutely love it.
The end.